freedom fighters, I'm back with another one. Well, today's video is going to be kind of like a part 2 of my last video. Are you tired of winning yet? So much winning. At least that's what they tell us. But yeah, in that video, I touched on how I've pretty much come to the conclusion that everybody on the right is controlled opposition. Or I kind of have a theory or a calculation that it's one of the big three. They're either scared, they're stupid, or they're complicit. And then I just try to figure out which one they are. But I also touched in that video, Trump had that famous speech, you're going to be winning so much, you're going to get tired of winning. And then I talked about how Tim Pool is always talking about winning, and his videos are always like, we're winning the culture war, why we're constantly losing. The right's always taking 2 steps back and 1 step forward. And yeah, we get some little W's here and there. We take 1 step forward, and then we call it winning. But we keep finding ourselves further behind. And, I'm sick and tired of thinking it's coincidences. It's happening for a reason. And I was trying to think in that video, because a lot of other content creators do this, and it's a running theme on the right that, we're winning. And I was trying to remember the guy who said it a lot, and I couldn't really think of it, but yeah, now I remembered. It's John Mark in The Winning Right. Do you remember John Mark? And if you don't, long story short, I'll give you a little rundown, but he was a prominent figure, content creator, and, he blew up quick. I was there pretty early on. I'm pretty sure I was subbed to him like 5K or 10K subs. Then he went to 20, he went to 40, 60, 80, 100K subs. And I think that's kind of when it all came crashing down. And boy, did it crash. But yeah, along that time, he was getting interviews with, big time channels, and he made it on AJ's show, IW, and, he was doing a lot of big stuff, and he was making it big. And then he formed some kind of protest or something like that, and, it was a major failure. And I can't remember how many people showed up, but I don't know, it was maybe like 100 people, something like that. And essentially it was basically like, yeah, we're going to march in the streets and show our strength and all this. And then it basically turned into a giant Fed trap, and, a bunch of bullshit happened. I can't even remember if that was the protest where there was a bunch of fighting and stuff there and people got arrested. But ultimately, the big thing that happened was a Black Lives Matter guy showed up. And I'm pretty sure it was just one guy. He might have had a couple guys with him, but he confronted not John Mark, it was Kurt Doolittle. And see, John Mark was the face of the organization. He was young. He was the voice of the organization. He had the cool suit. He had the helmet. But Kurt Doolittle was kind of like the brains behind the operation, or he claimed to be the brains and the creator of it. Well, so then he gets confronted by this guy, and he starts going off on some weird tangent and talking about like how the dude's penis is bigger than his is, and he's like, oh yeah, black guy's got a bigger dick than me, so, whatever. And then he ends up pissing himself on stage. And, I'll give the guy some credit, or say that he didn't even piss himself. He said that it was hot as hell out that day, and he was, sweating up a storm. But we've all had swamp ass before and sweaty nuts, and never do you have a prominent, wet spot like that right in your crotch. But anyway, let's say he didn't piss himself. At that point, the movement was pretty much over, and within a couple hours, I'm pretty sure that night, John Mark shut his channel down. And if not that night, I mean, it was within 24 hours, maybe 48 hours, I can't remember, but very soon after that, he wiped his social media, he deleted his channel, all that. And man, do I wish that channel was still up, to at least archive his videos and go through there and analyze some of the comments that I left throughout the years. But I was in there blackpilling the fuck out of his viewers and him, but he never seemed to really take to it. And like I said, his whole saying was, "We're the winning right." And he would talk about this all the time, how we're winning, and like all his videos were about, "Oh yeah, we're winning, we did this, we did that, we're winning." And I would be in his comment section like, "No man, this isn't happening. You're basically disillusioned. You're telling yourselves, and more importantly, you're misleading your viewers into this ideology that you're winning." And like I said, we're taking 2 steps back and 1 step forward. But to his credit, he actually used to be down in the comment section, and he would answer me. He never blocked me or channel muted me or whatever. And he would have discussions with me, and we often disagreed. But at least he talked to me. And then eventually I got just known as like the doom and gloom guy. And he would message like, "Oh, here's this guy again. Freedom is talking doom and gloom." And then he was like, one time he actually said like, "Oh, this guy's just here to subvert the movement," or something like that. And basically he was like, "You're not helping the movement saying stuff like this." And I was like, "No, man, it's you who's not helping the movement by pushing this hopium and this whole 'we're winning.' It's putting people on the couch. That's what it is." And just like the Q-tard movement, I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised if this guy isn't Q, right? It's like someone look up, when this guy disappeared and when Q popped up. Actually, I think this guy was after Q. I think he did some videos about that, but yeah, man, he was pushing hopium along with all the other ones, and basically putting the patriot militia movement asleep. And you have to ask yourself, out of the big 3, what was he? Was he scared? No, I don't think this guy was scared. Was he stupid? Well, maybe. I don't know. And was he complicit? Was he a part of it? Was he controlled opposition? Well, it's up for you to decide. I just asked the questions, but yeah, I mean, the other point I was getting to was basically, with all these politicians and stuff, not necessarily these media personalities, these content creators, but mainly the politicians. But the new guy on the map, the new, hot thing is Javier Milei. He's so hot right now. Where's that from? But yeah, everyone's saying how he's gonna come in and save the day, and sure, he looks good. I mean, I'll give you some credit. He says some good things, but then I looked into him further, and it turns out he's a WEF member. And he's talking about ending Argentina's central bank and all this stuff. But then I looked into it further, and he's actually shutting their bank down, and he wants to tie their currency to the US dollar. So basically, our Federal Reserve Bank, illegitimate banking system. So he's just swapping one for the other. And it's like, what good will that do? So it's all smoke and mirrors. Do I have hopes for him, man? I hope he can pull something out. I hope he can do something for the Argentina people. But it's looking like it's going to be another do-nothing, hopium fest. Where they think like, hey, it's going to turn out, but ain't nothing going to happen. And then you got Wilder in the Netherlands. Same thing. Looks like he's talking a good game. Do I expect anything to happen? Heck no. I'm pretty sure the Netherlands just had that chick in there. I can't even remember her name, but she took all their guns. Was that the? I can't even remember what the event was, but yeah, they had some kind of shooting over there, and she did straight up confiscation, turn them all in. And is this Wilder guy gonna come in there and give them all their guns back? Well, probably not, because it's too damn late. They ran them all through the grinder and crushed them and threw them in the landfill. So even if he wanted, to say, hey, you can have civilian ownership again, you're not getting your stuff back. But, yeah, it happens like this time and time again. Boris Johnson. Again, the Q-tards, all kinds of conspiracies around him. They were like, oh, I can't remember if it was Q or who was talking about it, that Boris is actually part of Trump's bloodline. And he's like the British Trump, and he's going to go in there and drain the swamp and kick out the deep state. And then it turns out, he's fully a part of it. And he got sucked into the crowd. I can't remember if it was the G20 summit or whatever it was, where he was pictured with Trudeau and Macron and, all the boys sipping tea at the table, talking globalist politics and how they can shaft the people. And he did nothing. And he sat on his ass and screwed the people over. And at least they kicked him out. But, yeah, I mean, that's how it continues to go down. And then, what's the other one? Can't even remember. Bolsonaro or whatever in Brazil. Same thing. Basically won the election, had all these promises, said he was going to restore gun rights, and he did restore some, but, at the end of the day, the only people in Brazil that were owning firearms were, like, rich people who paid for their permits, who asked permission, and all that. He should have just done sweeping legislation like gun crime, there's no such thing. Like, you have unfettered access to firearms to defend yourself and your family. You don't have to go jump through hoops and do all this bullshit because you're free. But do they ever do that? No. So now it comes down to the big one. And, before, because I can already hear it, the I'm not saying Trump was either one of the big three, but you have to ask yourself the question. So, was he controlled opposition? Was he there to subvert the movement? Was he one of the big three? Was he scared? I don't know. Was he stupid? I don't think so. Maybe a little naive. He always said, I hire only the best and the brightest, yet all he had was snakes around him. Or was he complicit? Was he a part of it all along? Was he controlled opposition? I don't know. Yeah, ask the questions. Let me know what you think down below. But, yeah, until the next one, you know what I always say. We are on our own. No one's coming to save us. So get right with God, because only God can save you. Freedom Fighters out.